Did you know that Jimmy Butler wasn't even supposed to be in the NBA, much less become one of its best postseason performers? Sounds crazy, right? Well, sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. In this video, we'll explore Jimmy Butler's incredible journey from humble beginnings to world-famous NBA superstar. Since his high school days as an unknown prospect from Tomball, Texas, Jimmy Butler's become a deeply respected and feared competitor. He's navigated life's twists and turns with poise and toughness, proving himself again and again. It doesn't matter if you're a Jimmy Butler fan or not, his inspiring story will surely bring a smile to your face. Basketball has taken him on a life's journey that not even Jimmy himself could have imagined. While it's true that every great basketball player starts out humbly, with little more than his own drive and determination to guide him, you could argue humble wouldn't even begin to describe Jimmy's early days. That's because Jimmy started out all alone, literally. Jimmy's father, Jimmy Sr., left the family shortly after he was born, and his mother, Londa, was left a single mother struggling to make ends meet while raising her children on her own. She frequently butted heads with her rebellious teenage son. One day, she decided she'd had enough and kicked him out of the house, telling him, "I don't like the look of you, you gotta go." From that point forward, Jimmy had to fend for himself. Jimmy Butler's first taste of adversity would prepare him for the more challenging roads ahead. After Jimmy got kicked out of his house, he struggled to find stability. He wandered the streets when he had nowhere else to go, and he crashed at friends' houses, staying in different spots for as long as he was allowed to. Eventually, basketball led Jimmy to a family he would get to call his own. Just before Jimmy's senior year in high school, a classmate named Jordan Leslie challenged him to a three-point contest at a summer league game. Jordan was competitive, just like Jimmy. He played on both the basketball and football teams at school. The two hit it off and quickly became close. Knowing Jimmy's situation, Leslie offered to let him stay at his family's house. Even though Jordan's mom, Michelle Lambert, and his stepdad were raising 6 other children, they eventually got over their initial reluctance and welcomed Jimmy with open arms. Lambert became the mother figure he needed in his life. She supported Jimmy in his basketball dreams, but not to the detriment of his academics. Michelle did so in a loving manner, always appealing to Butler's better nature. Speaking of Jimmy, Michelle once told a reporter, "I told him my kids looked up to him. He had to stay out of trouble, work hard in school. He had to set an example. And you know what? Jimmy did it. Anything I asked him to do, he did it without asking questions." The unconditional love and support Jimmy received from Michelle and her family was exactly what he needed during those times. It was real and genuine. It made him feel so accepted and loved. Years later, the NBA superstar lamented about how his homeless story was blown way out of proportion. Jimmy said, "I was not living under a bridge, that's homeless, or standing on the corner asking for change. That's not what it was. I'm not going to say it was the easiest of times, don't get me wrong, but I had a home, or homes." Before the 2011 NBA draft, Jimmy even pleaded with the media not to write his story in a way that makes people feel sorry for him. Butler told ESPN in a pre-draft interview, "I hate that. There's nothing to feel sorry about. I love what happened to me. It made me who I am. I'm grateful for the challenges I faced. Please don't make them feel sorry for me." Maybe he didn't want the media to embellish his background, but his unique story of overcoming adversity and finding a family's love made his basketball journey possible. But like most things in his life, success would be hard-earned. Butler was pretty good in high school, but he wasn't anything special. He got a late start in basketball and never even played AAU ball. Brad Ball, Jimmy's former coach at Tomball, noted how small and skinny he was. He got by on hustle and smarts until his body matured. He averaged 19.9 points and 8.7 rebounds per game as a senior, but not a single Division I college program came calling. He was essentially an afterthought at that point, ranked as the 1,253rd best player in his recruiting class. So where does an 18-year-old Jimmy Butler go from there? He had no D1 prospects to keep his hoop dreams alive. Luckily for Jimmy, a Houston area scout named Alan Branch had tipped off Tyler, Texas Junior College head coach Mike Marquette about Jimmy's under-the-radar senior year success. After a phone call led to a campus visit, Marquette quickly realized Jimmy Butler was a guy he wanted on his team. Early in what would be his lone season of junior college basketball, Jimmy struggled to adjust at first, and he wasn't drawing the interest of Division I recruiters the way his teammate Joseph Fultz was. Marquette University assistant coach Buzz Williams made several trips down to Tyler to track Fultz's play. Williams couldn't help but notice Fultz's teammates' hard-charging style of play. Buzz knew every team needed a guy with that kind of motor, and he told Jimmy he'd love to have him on his team if he ever became a head coach. Jimmy's confidence exploded at the prospect of playing for a Big East powerhouse like Marquette. And after a series of 30 and 40-point outbursts, he ended up leading Tyler in scoring at 18 points per game, was finally garnering national attention, and the legend of Jimmy Buckets was born. Marquette wasn't alone anymore, as Clemson, Iowa State, and even Kentucky extended scholarship offers. But by now, Buzz Williams had become head coach at Marquette, as Tom Crean left his post for greener pastures at Indiana. Joseph Foles quickly committed to Buzz and the Golden Eagles, and pleaded with his new coach to sign Jimmy too. He even recalled telling Williams, "If you don't take Jimmy, I'm not coming." Days later, Tyler junior college teammates Jimmy Butler and Joseph Foles drove to a McDonald's near campus, asked to use the restaurant's fax machine, and sent their signed letters of intent to play for Marquette. Life at Marquette got off to a rocky start. Jimmy found himself on the outside looking in, stuck behind all Big East and eventual NBA forward Wesley Matthews. To make matters worse, Buzz Williams was relentless. He put Jimmy through torturous workouts, many of them beginning as early as 5 a.m. and lasting for hours. It was so hard, he thought he's done with Marquette and with basketball. I was like, you know what? This basketball thing ain't for me. You're so far away from home. To tell you the truth, I didn't do research. I didn't know that it snowed. I didn't know that it got cold. I didn't know anything. I went up there like I was still in Texas. Basketball shorts, t-shirts, flip-flops. Butler made many calls to Michelle Lambert shortly after the fall semester began, pleading with her to come home and claiming that he had made a huge mistake. Fortunately for Butler, Lambert understood how to handle the matter, told him to suck it up and stick with it, which he did. He went from averaging 5.6 points in his first season at Marquette to 15.7 points as a junior, which included huge upset wins over Xavier and Syracuse in the NCAA tournament. After the season ended, Butler decided to enter the NBA draft. He didn't hear Commissioner David Stern call his name until the Chicago Bulls made him their choice with the final pick in the first round. Nobody expected Butler to be much more than a role player, and after only seeing about 9 minutes of action per night as a rookie, it seemed like a fair assessment. Things all changed during the 2012 playoffs when Bulls star Derrick Rose blew out his knee, tearing his ACL. While a devastating blow to the Bulls, Derrick Rose's absence created a void that Jimmy Butler would gradually fill. Butler saw his playing time triple the following season, and his game blossomed over the next few years. By 2015, Jimmy had fully arrived. He made the first of what would soon be 4 consecutive All-Star teams. Jimmy was the undisputed leader of the Bulls now. But the NBA is a business above all else, and after 6 seasons with the Bulls, Jimmy Butler was traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves. He made another All-Star team in his 2-year run with Minnesota, but was soon on the move again, this time getting dealt to Philadelphia. Jimmy Butler led the Sixers to the second round of the 2019 playoffs. There, they met the Toronto Raptors. The teams battled it out in 7 hard-fought games. Jimmy made a layup with 4.2 seconds remaining in Game 7 to tie it. Unfortunately for Jimmy and the Sixers, Kawhi Leonard ended their season by hitting a memorable buzzer beater to win the game and take the series. The Raptors would go on to earn their first NBA championship trophy a few weeks later. Jimmy Butler signed with the Miami Heat in the summer of 2019 as part of a 4-team sign-and-trade deal. He's made 2 more All-Star teams and has led the Heat to the NBA Finals twice in the last 4 seasons, including this season's magical run that started in familiar fashion for Jimmy as a long-shot underdog 8th seed. Jimmy Buckets has earned his nickname in this playoff run, as he's had some monster scoring nights, including dropping a playoff career-high 56 points in a first-round win over the top-seeded Milwaukee Bucks. The Heat have added series wins over a scrappy New York Knicks club and a determined Boston Celtics squad that would not quit. As his 12th season winds down, championship ring or not, Jimmy Butler personifies the Heat culture of hustle, toughness, and team unity. He's made Miami the cherished home that eluded him all those years ago as a teenager, struggling to find his way in Texas.